Hey y'all, Mac here. I originally wanted to make a video dedicated to providing how to do expeditions and more importantly how to maximize them for currency. But I have seen a couple of videos pop up about this, and I think that there's plenty of guides out there basically telling you how to do the mechanic. And I don't think that takes as much time as other things that I want to talk about. And I want to focus more on what can make Expedition a better mechanic in the future, some of its weaknesses, comparisons to PoE 1 in some cases, as well as what I feel really needs attention from a development standpoint. I think overall, mapping Expedition encounters are in a really good place. I think that there's a decent balance between difficulty and reward. And although I think there's some inconsistencies in terms of rewards, like some expeditions you have will just absolutely pop out uniques, exalts, divines, and logbooks, while other ones seem to give close to nothing. And it really depends on how you play the remnants. But at the end of the day, sometimes it feels like it just doesn't matter, and that's kind of reminiscent of PoE 1's expedition, where sometimes you just get nothing, even though it seems you placed everything correctly. Now, I will say that I seem to see a lot more expedition logbooks from PoE 2 encounters, and I think this is a lot healthier, especially with a boss that's gated around RNG in these logbooks. Logbooks, on the other hand, while they seem like they might take a lot of planning, you can also kind of freeform it. You really just want to aim for several good remnants that buff pack size, rare monsters, magic monsters, as well as the loot they drop, i.e. quantity or rarity. And after this, you're pretty much just trying to pop as many monster markers as possible. Chest markers are also good if you can hit them on the way, especially the artifact chests. Now, my loot filter kind of hides most of the artifacts, but the actual drops from these are going to mainly be exotic coinages that give you currency. Other rewards just don't seem to drop as much. I think logbooks are where a big part of my critique comes in. I think that logbooks just don't feel super rewarding unless you do them on the highest difficulty, and even then, it's still kind of tough to get decent returns out of them based on their cost. They're hovering around 25 to 30 exalts right now based on their level, and moreover, that means you have to make a lot of exotic coinages and artifacts to even, get out of it with a profit, and that's assuming you don't find the boss. Now, of course, if you find the boss and he drops a flask, you're in the green for a while, but I just don't feel like they're rewarding enough right now to warrant their cost, and this might be more of an economy issue than a design issue, but I just feel like overall, logbooks feel pretty unrewarding, or at the very least inconsistent, and this is something that I think should be changed. I think they should drop more reroll currency or just more artifacts in general. That way they are more incentivized to be run as opposed to just be sold or traded around. Now, Olroth is the boss from Expedition, and you can find him as a skull marker on your map. And when you blow that skull marker up with an explosive, you can enter his arena and fight him. He has, from what I know, two notable drops, the Jewel and the Flask Olroth's Resolve, which currently seems to be extremely rare. I'm not even sure if this could drop outside of difficulty 4. I really haven't done any true testing, and there don't seem to be that many on trade, so my guess would be it's either absurdly low drop rate or it's locked behind a certain difficulty level. Nevertheless, he's a pretty easy boss as long as you don't get frozen. And you can dodge most of his big slams, you're pretty fine. I think that it's rewarding enough just to get a boss in your expedition, but if you don't, then again, they feel pretty underwhelming. As far as the nodes for Expedition go, you can see I already have all 8. You get these from killing Olroth at different difficulty levels. I think that in mapping terms, getting increased logbooks and the more implicit modifiers, as well as more runic monster markers, this is going to up your chances of just getting logbooks and overall more loot from the expeditions, which I think is the main point. I don't think taking anything but this is really worth. You can go big boom. I really like Extreme Archaeology just as a fun way to do expedition. You walk up and you just have to place one explosive. But my issue with this node right now is that there's so many map layouts that just don't feel good with it. Like if you get Crypt or something with normal expedition, you can actually get a pretty good return on it. But with Extreme Archaeology, you're just gonna get maybe 3 or 4 runic monster big markers, and that just isn't it. Instead, I think time detonations, which really just gives you more artifacts, and more importantly, the rare expedition monsters in your map and quantity of exotic coinages. This is the node that I think is more valuable, because exotic coinages are a decent chunk of the currency income outside of logbooks. You can also do more chest markers. I've never actually tried this. I think it's okay, but I don't really think it's that worth, especially like because they despawn, so you really have to click them fast. Remnant and additional prefix suffix. I think this is probably the best if your build is just insane and able to take on the rares. My previous Hexblast build had a better time with that content, but now I'm specking up here just because my build isn't as like capable of dealing with mapping rares. As far as expedition crafting goes, how it works now is Tujin sells jewelry, Rog sells armor, and Gwenin sells weapons. Rog's currency seems to be really undervalued, and it's just not that good. But I do think that crafting an armor can be alright. For the most part, though, I feel like that the crafting is actually pretty underwhelming as well. So the biggest issue I have with it is that there just aren't enough upgrade modifier options. So you can get a item that has pretty good stats, but they're just too low tier to really be usable. And back in PoE 1, there were a lot of ways you can kind of like bait the roll options towards upgrade modifiers, or at the very least you'd see upgrade modifier level more often than you do now. And that kind of gimps this crafting method. Also, the chance of you hitting a high tier modifier when you reroll prefix or suffix is pretty low. Another issue is items are usually not eye level 80, and it's rare that you get one. And not only do you have to get a good eye level 80 base, you also have to find one that's like craftable to start out with. A lot of the times you'll just get magic items that never give you the option to make it into a rare, which is just kind of infuriating. Of course, you can like get 2 really good stats on them and then essence craft, but I feel like the by design expedition, with how much time you're spending in its windows and interfaces, you should be crafting pretty good items out of the mechanic by itself.